How important it is to you that Bourton has a school?
Very important. Otherwise you'd have to get them into Gillingham or wherever.
Yes, I mean, does anyone move here? I mean,
But we live at Zeals,
yeah,
and we send our children to Bourton because we think it's a better school than the one available to us. We travel out of the area so that they can come here.
I mean, we came from town, and I found out about this school before I found out about anything, before we even moved here.
we said,
W.A. Hosmer, headmaster in 1920s, wrote, "Little was done to educate the poorer children prior to 1872. Aged parishioners state that they learnt a smattering of reading and writing at the Sunday schools of the church and chapels. A school for the sons of gentlemen was held in an upper room, a sort of loft built beside a private house." After the passing of the 1870 Forster Act, a Church of England or national school was built to educate the poorer parishioners' children. The National Society helped with a liberal grant, and the remainder of the funds needed were raised through the energy of the first vicar, the Reverend George Glover.
What was the school like when you were there? How did it differ from now, perhaps?
oh, we had the old-fashioned stoves in each of the classrooms. And I can remember in the winter they used to bring the crates of milk in and stand on the top to thaw them out when they were frozen. I had to sit up the front because I used to get bronchitis. And then they found out it was the fumes from the coke smoke giving me the bronchitis. So. But it's completely different nowadays up here. I mean, when we started school, You came in and you were taught to read and write, but now they come and they play, don't they, for a term? It's so strict.
But that's the only school I went to in 10 years. I started when I was 4 and left at 14. But I can't remember much about my early days. The later years, we used to do a lot of woodwork, I remember, in the gardens, of course, we had at the back.
Well, what were the gardens like?
Oh, they were very good. We each had our own, well, I think 2 of us had a plot each or something, and we used to look forward to that very much.
What sort of things did you grow?
All vegetables and fruit, all kinds, everything.
The kids have uniforms now. What did you wear when you went to school?
Well, whatever we could afford, or there was no strict
When
anything.
I was at school, that's when they decided we had to bring different clothes for PE. And I can remember a lot of the mums were up in arms because they said it would cost too much. But that was when we had to bring a spare pair of navy blue knickers for the girls to change into. And that was an extra expense. I can't remember how old I was, about 7, I think, when that started. And then we had all the evacuees come there during the war. And there were 2 classes to each room.
What difference did that make?
Well, a lot. It was almost impossible to learn because you weren't both sort of doing the same subject. They might have been doing arithmetic while you were doing poetry, and 2 different teachers, both shouting, and Mr. Bovey shouting to everybody to keep quiet.
What sort of equipment did they have in the school in your day? What were the toilets like, and what did you write on, and that kind of thing?
Open air toilets. For the boys, anyway.
You had to go out the back?
Yes. Run around the school into the open, and they were still open when you got into the toilets.
Oh, we had doors on ours. You still had to go out round the back of the school. Girls went round the church side, and the boys came round this side.
Yes.
You have proper toilet paper and things like that?
No, newspaper torn into squares. We had toilet paper monitors that changed every Monday. And I got into trouble for refusing to do it once. That's always stuck in my mind.
What did they teach you to write on?
To start with, we had hand that we had to write with our fingers, and then we were given slates, sort of after a while. And we didn't get paper to write on until we were about 6 or 7.
A pathetic entry in the school logbook says that George Hill, a boy of 7 years of age, left this week to go to work in the brickyard. Poor little chap.
Now, boys, first, 2 wicks only, there and that, 2 wicks.
Philip Harvey, the headmaster of Bourton Primary School.
How important do you think it is that the village has its own school?
Well, very important. I think it's been shown in a lot of villages in North Dorset that when the school goes, several other amenities start to disappear pretty soon afterwards. The shop, the post office, and we get a retirement village. I think it's been shown in several villages around here that educational provision is something that young people trying to move out of a city or a town into a village look for.
Do you think it's important that they should stay in the village for their education? I mean, do you think it gives them more of a feeling of identity with the village?
Well, I suppose it does while we're here talking about the small school.
If they're hived out every day for 5, 6, 7 hours in the middle of the day, then they're almost in the same situation as the elderly retired people who use it as somewhere to sleep. I mean, it's bed and breakfast, isn't it?
Well, they've got the advantages of small classes and a closer knit school altogether, which I think is an advantage for them.
Do you think there are possible disadvantages? Like
Yes, in that there's not so many children of their own age at the school.
Yeah.
I think that can be a disadvantage.
When you get on to the bigger schools, but I don't know, I think you lose something because the children here, because it's smaller, they seem to get more attention and they're egged on in a much nicer way.
I think any head teacher of a large school would openly admit to you that there are a lot of children he doesn't know that well, and certainly he doesn't know their parents that well. I think I'm able to say I know every child, every parent, their name, their circumstances, where they live, and everything about them.
Being a village school, do you think that the parents are more involved in the running of it?
Yes, parents do take an interest in the school. And sometimes it can almost be an over-interest. Sometimes it can be a bit cloying, and you do wish that they keep their distance a bit and let you get on with your job. But on the other hand, when you really actually sit back at the end of the day and you think, well, if I haven't got that feedback of what's going on, what parents think, then I shouldn't be doing the job. I mean, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, they're paying my salary. They're the ratepayers. One thing that can be said, for all the moans and groans maybe by older members of the village who remembered it before new development took place. It is the new close development and other developments in the village that kept the village school open, when 2 or 3 years ago the numbers could have got to such a point that the school would have been on a list for closure. Now, I'm not saying that it would have been closed, but I'm saying that it would have got to a stage where County Hall would have been looking very closely at the numbers.
Never thought this would happen. Stuart rang me up, I didn't believe it. I just can't take it all in, I don't believe it.
Me and a couple of my friends were out newt fishing, and then my sister said to me that they think the school's on fire, and when we got out there, my friend goes, if it is the school, my name's Benny, and he got out there and he goes, my name's Benny, because he noticed the school had been burnt down. And we raced on out there to have a look at it, and we seen the fireman in there, and we asked him how it happened, and we got told that a roofing bloke had dropped a gas bottle of some description and caught it on fire. A shock to me, because before I left up there, that song you get, wish the school would blow up, and we wished it would come when we were going, but it didn't. But now it's happened, cool, it shocked me.
I went in the shop just before 12:30, and I didn't see anything then. And when I came back up, there was all clouds of smoke going up, and the next minute there were flames, and it was just chaos. It went up so quickly.
What did you feel like seeing your old school go up in flames?
Bit numb. It sort of wasn't true, if you know what I mean. It's sort of still difficult it's happened, but it can take a long time to sink in.
It's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I think, yes.
Well, it's a great...
My parents went there as well, and my grandparents. So it's the end of an era, I think.
So we've lost all that. We've lost a chunk of history. But I suppose one's got to be quite honest and say, for the 1980s, the school was a bit out of date. We were short of a few facilities. What we must remember is that the children educated in that school in the 1980s, that the toddlers of this village now, will be the citizens of the year 2000. So it's only fair to them to educate them in a modern place. Now, following the fire, the Education Authority will build us a new school, which will be a school of the 1980s, which will have the facilities that children who are going to be citizens of the next century will need to fulfill their role in the next century. I think it can be said that when a new school is built there in the next few months, it is highly unlikely that the Education Authority is then going to, in a year or 2 years, turn around and close it down.
Did they rebuild the old building?
Oh, yes, I think so, yes. Keep it in the village. Yes, definitely.
Well, the school's always been the centre of Bourton, hasn't it?
Yes.
We've only had a village hall for a few years. Everything that went on in this village was at the school. They used to have wedding receptions here and little fetes and sports days.
So does the building itself mean something to you? The old building?
Oh yes. I wouldn't want to see a modern one put back in its place.
Or rebuilt as it was, if possible.
How many children have you got now?
4.
So it's obviously important what happens to them. What about the school and the burning of it? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's very bad. You know, we hope they do something to replace it.
What would you like to see happen there?
Me, I would like to see it rebuilt like it was. But from what I hear of it, the stonework inside isn't very good, so I suppose they're going to build a more modern one down below the old one, which will be, well, good on our behalf, because they don't have to go so far to get to school, you know.
It's never going to be the same, is it? Because they isn't going to have the atmosphere. The look's going to be too modern to fit the village, really, because it's going to be about the only modern building that we possess, apart from the village hall, and then that's quite similar to the old building that they had before. But I think a new schooling that's stuck somewhere else in the field is going to stick out like a sore thumb, personally.
Did you see the school burn down?
Yes.
What did it look like?
Oh, terrible. No, you couldn't do nothing, and it was all going up, and you just had to stand there and watch it.
What did you think about it?
Yeah, it's really bad. And I went there, you know, it's really sad seeing it go down, and it's such an age. And if they sort of build a new one, sort of brand new looking one, it sort of spoil the look of the village, because it put it all out of place.
I don't know. I'm so much. But tonight. Oh yeah. Yes, it's tonight.
I'm just wondering how much contact people living on these enclosed estates have with the rest of the village. How did you find your contacts with the old part of the village?
Well, having 2 children at school when we first moved here, that was the beginning of it all, really. I got very quickly involved in what was going on in the village regarding the school.
But I mean, working full time, we don't know the people that live in the village now, whereas years ago you knew everybody. And like when my children were small and you took them to school, you met up with other mothers. But once you got no small children and you come out to work full time, you don't get to know people.
Come through quite often. Is there anything that actually makes you remember this village?
Only that it's a linear village, you know, it's very long and I mean, it's a 40-mile-an-hour limit, I remember that. And, you know, I think it's an attractive place and it's a great pity that all this traffic has to rush through it. But this road has improved enormously over the years, and this is one of the few sort of villages that are left where I imagine they're pretty fed up with the traffic at weekends.
What do you think of the speed limit?
Oh, I think it's reasonable. I wouldn't want to do more than 40 through a village like this. I mean, I think it's quite dangerous for the people who live here. You know, I think you want to keep well below that if you can.
What about the road? Do you think that's a bit of a problem?
No. Not at all.
Did you notice the speed limit through?
Didn't notice it, no.
Not the police, is all right.
No, I didn't.
What do you think of the speed limit? Reasonable?
Yeah. But after those that have used it, the caravan just passed me doing 70. A caravan, you know. But, yeah, speed limit's reasonable, yeah.
Tom Mitchell, clerk to the parish council and chairman of the village hall committee. What is it that the motorist doesn't appreciate about living by a main road?
Well, a motorist, I think, uses a road mainly just to get from A to B as quickly as he can with as little problem as possible, without really thinking of the people who are living on the road and who suffer by reason of the volume of the traffic that's there.
But surely a village of this kind is very insignificant when it comes to planning major roads. How can you possibly expect to influence official policy?
A village may be insignificant when it's taken in the context of the country as a whole. But there are, after all, some 715 people living in this village. And there's no reason why those people shouldn't have as reasonable a life as people elsewhere.
But is it practical to try and bring influence to bear?
Yes, certainly. It takes time. It takes a lot of patience, I'm afraid. It's not something that can be done in 5 minutes. But a village can act as a pressure group just as any other pressure group is applied to the powers that be.
What did Bourton do about its problem?
Well, we started by getting our facts right. And we compiled what I think to be a very reasonable case. As I say, we carried out a traffic census. We provided plans of the road, details of the troubles that had taken place, the accidents and all the other things that had happened in the village. And we put these all in a book form and presented them to the minister through our MP. And following that, we had an interview with the minister.
What was actually achieved by your campaign?
Well, quite a number of things were really achieved. We had mentioned in our representations to the minister certain things we thought could be done. First, for 15 years, the council had been trying to persuade the ministry to extend the speed limit from the top of the Church Hill down to Chaffey Moor, a distance of about a third of a mile, I suppose. And this we suggested again. We also suggested that instead of the usual signs at each end of the village, there should be a larger sign with some appropriate wording on it. And thirdly, we did press for some information regarding the bypass. The minister eventually agreed to extend the speed limit, which we think was quite an achievement. Secondly, she agreed that we could have some unusual signs, which had to be agreed with the appropriate authorities, but we now have large signs and with the words, "Please drive carefully." And thirdly, she did give us an assurance that the bypass was still included in a list and that plans were being prepared for it.
To an outsider, and I come back to that again because that's where we began in a way, it might seem that an awful lot of effort on your part went into producing quite modest results, but are there actually any wider advantages involved in engaging in this kind of pressure activity?
Oh yes. First of all, it does help put Bourton on the map, which I think, and I'm sure the council agree, is a very useful exercise. As you know, we're up in the north corner of Dorset and rather lost in many ways, but we are now known both locally and also in London, and I think that in itself is quite an achievement. We may want other things and we should be known.
What lessons can other villagers learn from all of this?
Well, so far as the speed limit and things of that sort are concerned, I think the main lesson is not to take no for an answer.
Thinking about campaigns, I mean, there have been a couple of fairly sizable ones. You mentioned one yourself in passing, in connection with the bypass, well, the road anyway, through the village, which the parish council was central to. And there's been another concern with the closure and reopening of one of the local pubs, which the parish council was more peripherally involved in. How much can that sort of direct action, or direct political action, on the part of a village really achieve results?
I think it has some effect on decision making, in as much that certainly from the pub closure point of view, you know, the pub was reopened. Perhaps not all to do with the parish council, but it certainly has effect. Would take planning applications. You know, there's an input into the district council from parish council level, and from the road A303 point of view, certainly at least people know that we have a parish council that is trying its hardest to improve the road. Well, I guess that in the past, most of the money for building, we'll say, the church and the temperance hall, school, headmaster's house, nurse's house, and the bus shelter, had to be, the money used for those had to be raised locally by public subscription. Whereas nowadays, we know when we built the swimming pool and the village hall and a new bus shelter being erected now, we know that we get grants from the local authorities. It still involves local input, local labour and local subscription, but the most responsibility for raising the money comes from official bodies.
Jane Marsh, Dorset Community Council Blue Van Service. What is the Blue Van Service setting out to do in rural areas like this one?
Well, Blue Van acts as an information service covering the areas not served by Citizens Advice Bureau catchment area. We cover all sorts of queries, from rate rebates, problems of single-parent families, setting up a business, all sorts of information.
What are the main sort of problems that come to you in this kind of area?
Well, Bourton in particular, the Department of Health and Social Security benefit queries come up time and time again. Transport's a problem. Up here we get a lot of transport queries. Housing, with the sale of council houses and them not being replaced, housing is a problem. Rent and rate rebate queries come up on quite a regular basis. I think they're the four main problems in this area.
What about the age groups that make most use of your service? Do young people come to you, or is it principally old ones?
Tends to be older people, but there again, we're only here once a fortnight on a Thursday morning. It could be perhaps they're at school, or the unemployed could be in the towns drawing their dole money. We don't get used by the young people, but I'm not quite sure of the reasons why.
What could you offer them if they wanted to use you?
Well, we do, again, the DHSS benefit leaflets. We can help them with their dole money. If they haven't enough money to live on, we can point them in the right direction. We do carry job sheets from various job centres offering the jobs that are available on the books at any one time. So although they're not always local jobs, there could be vacancies in, for instance, Bridport, Dorchester, Blandford. They may be happy to move if there's a job available.
I was fortunate enough to be appointed to Bourton by a committee in Trowbridge rather than and left suburbia, and because I've always had a thought that single-handed country practice had something to offer as personal kind of doctrine. If you do decide to go into country practice, you have to be prepared to be on duty, if not necessarily working, a great many more hours in the week than our colleagues in the towns. But perhaps their work load and their type of work they have to undergo is rather more unpleasant than mine. So one of the things that I've introduced in 19 years that I've been here, of course, is the personal family planning service. So we're going back one stage, is that in Dr. Ellis's time, his patients had to find their own way to family planning clinics. here now. As soon as I arrived in 1964, we began to offer that sort of a service. When I first came, the first 10 years I was here, we used to do most of our deliveries that were suitable were done in the cottage hospital in Shaftesbury, but with a few suitable cases being delivered in their homes in the village here. But the numbers seem to diminish, and with the diminishing numbers to be delivered, the doctors around here all felt more or less simultaneously that we should not be delivering babies at home, much as some of our patients would have liked it. And so they then we actively discouraged it and persuaded them to be delivered in Shaftesbury. And the next thing that has happened, of course, is that there is some pressure at the moment for alteration in the system at Shaftesbury. But we do believe in keeping our mothers as near geographically as possible. But the consultants in Salisbury and Yeovil do show a great concern to have more and more mothers delivered in consultant units. And they are concerned for the safety and welfare of the newborn child, particularly, and such facilities can't be offered to us in the mother's home, as you understand.
The Reverend Ronald Seal, rector of the joint parish of Upper Stour.
We're always hoping to convert people, in the sense that we're hoping to turn them towards God, and this is why we teach the faith and why we try to help them in need, and why we provide the various services for the special occasions of their lives. We hope that they will turn towards God and find a faith and find joy and happiness in their faith.
To what extent is the church in this area concerned with the material well-being of people?
Well, very much so. We have a number of charities that we can use to help people who are in distress, and we have used these in the past. And also, if people are ill, we find someone to help them out with the shopping and with the housework sometimes. People are very caring in this area, and we've only got to ask one of the parishioners to help someone, and we know that they'll be there helping in any way they can. So we're very concerned with the material as with the spiritual welfare of people. So there is this desire, I think, to maintain the church in the village, just as there was a desire to build in the first place. I think the spirit is still there, although perhaps people don't feel that they need come along to worship.
How would you like to live in Bourton? Don't be kind.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm a Londoner by birth. I mean, I've lived in Somerset now for 30-odd years. And I must admit, I no more go back to London than fly. But I think village life is quite nice, especially if you're an OAP. But I think otherwise, no.
I think that the numbers in this Dorset area over 65 have probably increased from about 25%, which is still twice the national average, to near 30% at the moment. And this is a national trend, not just a... So rural areas have always had a high population of elderly. Our young people leave to find employment elsewhere, and especially into the towns, and leave behind a population which is aging and surviving longer, as you must know. And so if you work in a rural area, you must expect to look after more than average greater than average number of aged people. I don't say they produce a particular problem. Obviously, their medical needs are greater than the ages between 16 and 65, say, on average.
How well does the special housing provided for retired people work?
When I came here, there were, I think, 6 special bungalows erected for the old people along the West Bourton Road. I think that it's a very important step, the appointment of the warden. A sympathetic warden makes an awful lot of difference to the way of life of those people, and of course it was very helpful to me indeed, acting as an intermediary and as passer on of messages, and certainly over the years the wardens do develop quite an expertise in their own right.
Yeah.
In those days, could you get everything you wanted within the village? Did you have to go to the for...
You didn't want to go out the village for anything. Where Walton's shop was, where the old antique place was up there, you would go down that shop and you could get just anything you wanted. Doesn't matter damn what it was. You could go in there and get measured for a suit of clothes. Anything.
Well, Mr. Wilton's, you could buy anything in there. Clothes, sheets, chicken
yes,
food.
It was drapery as well.
Everything.
And I remember I expect we could name 14 working in there at one time.
Were there things in there for children? Did you have to go in as a kid for any purpose?
Yes. Skipping ropes cut to size.
Broken biscuits.
Oh, you used to get those penny a pound in Mrs. Bartlett's.
Yeah.
Broken biscuits.
Well then sweets, I suppose. There's sweets in there.
Oh, Mrs. Bartlett, she sold furniture, shoes. If you wanted a pair of shoes and she didn't have them, she would make a phone call to Wincanton and you could get them. Maybe 2 hours later they would come up on the bus. So straight in. And if they didn't fit, she would send them back on the next bus and get another pair out the same day.
You get one made. You could get one made in Bourton. Johnny Lush.
Next door to the old post
The
office.
old place pulled down now. The old post office. Oh, that's pulled down. Oh, you could go in there and Johnny Lush will measure you. You could get a pair of boots made or anything. And you were many a time. My father used to mend all our boots. So, and I've been down there hundreds of times with a piece of brown paper. The size of the clamp and the tip and that you want it on your boots. Father used to say, "Don't forget the nails, mind." You could get anything in this village. You could tell me. You get 3. Fishman used to be here 3 times a week, and I've seen 3 fish carts outside of Hindley's down there on a Friday night. You didn't want to go out the village for anything hardly. No. Damn good it was.
So you didn't have to wait weeks for things to be delivered in those days.
Oh, used to be a butcher here and a baker. Used to be a good baker here where the post office is. I've been there with hundreds of faggots. Oh yeah. How good then. I've been in there and had a brandy ball for farthing. Where the post office is now. But you get a big brandy ball for a farthing. Yeah.
Where did you have to go to get your hair cut?
Just up the road here. All we boys, Saturday mornings. Boys' haircut Saturday mornings. Well, it's just this side of the boundary.
I normally do that, but...
Anything else for you?
cheeses.
Box of cheeses. That's a little section.
Yeah.
How frequently do you use the post office here?
Every day.
Every day.
I'm down here.
Why is it that you come here rather than the local supermarkets?
Well, this is the only
Well, because it's the only one in the village, and go to the supermarket, costs you £1 return on the bus. So, I mean, you better shop in your local shop. And also the food is nice
I
and
believe
fresh.
Trevor Griffin actually brings around your food if you want it.
Oh, yeah.
Some people that can't
Those
that
that
are very
can't
old.
get out.
How many shops have you run before?
We haven't.
This is the first one.
We jumped in at the deep end at Christmas time.
You're now the last remaining shop in a village that used to have quite a few. There are supermarkets in all the towns around, people have cars. How do you justify your existence?
Well, it's hard work, I suppose. Yeah, if you're the only one, and you've got to be competitive whether you're a small shop or a big shop. It's a question now. A lot of our customers are elderly. They can't travel very far. So, you know, we've got the elderly people up at top who come down.
So what's the particular service you provide that other shops don't?
It's a personal touch. It's still over-the-counter service rather than on the, you know, the supermarket style, which we don't really want, you know.
And also we do sort of books, if you like, you know, the old-fashioned sort of system of pay, you know, have it today and pay at the end of the week, which obviously you can't do in a supermarket. And I think it does help. Yeah.
What then is the most important thing in making a shop successful when you take it over completely from scratch? How did it work for you?
Well, we had to build it up because it had been run down very badly, and I think mainly you have to do other things other than just serve your customers. You have to provide an extra service, like if they want somebody a cleaner, you provide them with a cleaner, you know, and so it's an employment agency and all the rest of it. And if they want a gardener, then you try and find someone a gardener. And if you happen to be outside their door delivering goods, because we do deliver goods which you wouldn't get in a supermarket, and if they want a nail knocked in, you knock a nail in, or quickly mow their lawn or whatever. That's just all part of the service. And I think this is what we did. We just built it up, and also we built our stock up by trying to find out different things that people wanted, you know, odd things that perhaps you wouldn't get, you know.
Was there any particular event that sort of marked the turning of the tide for you?
Yes, the weather. We had a very bad winter, that particular winter. And we were told before we came that we don't have bad weather here, you know, we don't have snow in this area. And we had an extremely bad winter. We were cut off for 4 days.
The village was isolated, and fortunately for us, you know, nothing could come in either, so nobody could go out. So we managed to have a full stock at the time, but the shelves completely empty after the you know, the weather. And well, you know, we fetched eggs from the farm, milk from the farm, you know, generally carried out the service.
So you improvised for other people?
Because we got to know the people that normally are not regular customers or weren't regular customers, which became friends. That's how we really sort of got off the ground. So we owe a lot to the weather.
So what is it that makes this post office such a...
Well, it's so handy, is it? It's the only one here.
Personalities as well. And we've got such lovely
very lucky to have such people here.
They're such nice people.
We're very lucky.
So generally it's the service you get that...
Yeah, definitely.
It's so little on extra on items anyway, compared with shopping in a supermarket where they don't give a darn about you. I'd much rather come here.
How important is the post office side of the business to you?
Very important indeed. We wouldn't have taken over the business without the post office, because it is very important. I mean, get customers to the post office was also, you know, buying the shop. I don't think they would come. A lot of them in the beginning would never have come if the post office hadn't been there.
But what pressures are there on the post office business? What tends to take away from it?
Well, the post office at the moment they are a bit worried. That's why they supplied us with these posters of, you know, cashing their allowances. They are obviously very worried, aren't they?
You've seen the posters, use it or lose it. And what the proposals are in the government are that pensioners and even child benefit people will be paid via a cheque, straight paid into their bank, which would, you know, really cut across the post office.
Can they still choose to pay into a post office?
Yeah.
Yes.
That will be.
Yes.
Yeah, that will be. That's
It
what-
would be
yeah.
optional, but
Will be optional.
it would be. Of course, probably most of the people would opt to still carry on with our post office because we've got no bank anyway. So.
But they have to make the move to
They
do
have to
so.
make the move. That's right. Yeah.
How about your pensions or your allowances? So it'd be definitely a lot better for you.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Yes, I couldn't go further for my pension. Oh. Couldn't make it.
What would actually happen if the post office would close down? Would you?
Oh, it'd be awful.
Don't say that, for goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it's essential for everything, really. Everybody learns
You've
things
got to
here.
have
We're
a
going to
car
meet
to
people.
get to an extra post office in Gillingham. Otherwise, how could we get there with our pensions?
Bus service is very poor.
It's
Yeah, very
Well,
poor
it
service
is,
on the
no,
bus.
yeah. I've got transport. I'm lucky. I can get it
Yes,
any
sir.
time, but I still come here for my main groceries.
So-
Only thing I'll go abroad for is meat, fresh meat.
And then when you get to Gillingham, you've only got about an hour and a half before the bus is back. You don't have a chance to really have a look around if you wanted anything special.
Proper shopping.
Do you find it awkward if you want to go out? You have to sort of ask your mother.
Yes.
That's a nuisance, is it?
Yeah. my dad works shifts and sometimes we don't have the car to go places.
Do you not all have bikes?
Yes.
Do you go bike riding a lot?
Yes.
But where do you go on your bike?
Stilton, round there, Gillingham, cycle to Gillingham to go to the roller disco.
Do you find it easy to get there? I mean, do you have your own car?
Oh yes, got a car.
Could you manage it by public transport?
I've never investigated the public transport ever because I've always had a car.
Do you have your own transport?
No.
What sort of problems does that give you in a place like this?
A lot of problems, really. You know, shopping, going out for the weekends. Can't get there, you know. Unless we rely on somebody else, like Barbara or some friends.
Suppose the public transport around here is
Oh, they don't go at night time, they finish at
Not
7.
reliable.
Come to Ford's Garages for a friendly family service, MOTs, repairs and accessories.
If you've got problems with your roof, for all your roofing requirements, slating, tiling, contact GW Fick and Jades Fick, Bourton 840139.
Join the Frog crowd at the White Lion, Bourton, Dorset, on the main A303 between Wincanton and Mere. Home cooked food, Usher's traditional ales, Taunton cider, beautiful gardens, and good company. Cheers.
Hello, man. Here they go.
What's he doing up here?
I'm finishing off the roof with a pattern wheat straw ridge after we recoated the back elevation with wheat straw.
And how did you become a thatcher?
Well, it's been a long family tradition. I decided to carry it on because it was in me blood.
How long have your family been thatching?
600 years. Yeah.
And how can people in Bourton get in touch with you?
I live on the forecourt of Bourton Garage in the bungalow. Pendome has a bungalow sport.
Okay, thank you very much.
From a dripping tap to full central heating, I'm the man.
If your body's full of holes, then contact Simon Dixon on Bourton 840 415.